signs on. Happy that you guys are here. Excited to have you and answer your independent contractor questions. Hey, Joanna, thanks for being on. How are you? There we go. We got Sarah, I see. Thanks for being on. Looking forward to answering your guys' questions. You guys, I've been getting a lot of awesome questions, so much that I had to do some research, but hopefully I'll get your guys' questions answered. So we'll just wait another minute for anyone else who wants to jump on. And what I'm going to do is talk generally about independent contractors. What I did is also created a list of questions that people were emailing about. So I'll run through those and of course answer your guys' questions too. All right, so we'll just wait another minute or so. We'll go through everything and we'll get started. If I haven't met you guys yet, I'm Katie Lemieux from the Private Practice Startup, one of the co-owners and co-visionaries. So it's nice to be able to connect with you guys.
Thanks. You're going to see me in September for the.
I thought so, and I got your email this morning, so I got that too.
Good. Sorry, that was a little late. I took the weekend off. It was my anniversary, so I played instead of.
Anniversary. And it looks like you do some equine therapy, yeah?
You do? Yeah.
That's awesome. I will look forward to hearing all about that in September when I see you.
Very nice. It'll be fun.
So let's go ahead and get started. So what I did is I decided to just kind of take some notes so I can organize everything in my mind and share that with you. So what's interesting is you guys have a lot of different questions about independent contractors. So we're looking at independent contractors as assistants or virtual assistants, but there's a lot of questions about independent contractors coming into the practice. So first off, obviously, I'm not an attorney or an accountant. So if you guys have specific questions about your state or certain things that apply to your practice, I definitely recommend you guys reach out. This is general information that I've learned through working with accountants and attorneys and also preparing our own paperwork to really get everything clear and solidified. So I first want to talk about independent contractors in general versus employees so you guys can make a clear distinction. Sir, would you mind maybe muting yourself just for now because we can hear the background noise? And if you have a question, just jump in. No, you're good. Bottom left.
Sure, no problem.
Awesome. So here's the thing. So there's a clear distinction between an independent contractor and an employee. And this is required by the IRS. So this is not a non-negotiable. You have to be clear on what an independent contractor is and what an employee is. So the difference is an independent contractor basically is, with an employee, I guess you have more control over the employee. An independent contractor, you have less control over them. So basically, certain things that would identify independent contractors, you have a decreased level of control. You don't tell them, number one, they're not at your office at a certain hours or certain amount of time. You don't say you have to be here from 10 to 2. They do the work on their own, usually outside of your office. You give them tasks to do, but how they do them, an independent contractor decides, right? So if you're hiring someone for graphic design or being a virtual assistant, you know, if you say, you know, I just really need some marketing materials. This is kind of what I want. And by the way, I need them in 2 weeks. However they decide to do them and they create them for you, obviously with your approval, that's more of an independent contractor. If you're hiring someone into your office, whether they're an assistant or a therapist, and you say you have to be here from 10 to 2 or 3 to 9 or whatever, you have to work these hours, you have to utilize my electronic medical record, you know, I'm going to pay you this certain amount for this work, and I'm going to have more control over you. I'm going to train you. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to say, don't do that, do this. No, that's not correct. You need to do this. So that's more of an employee. So the independent contractor, they have more of their own hours. Like, for example, I have a virtual assistant. She works up to 10 hours a week. She writes my blogs. I basically approve them. And then I kind of give her certain tasks, like I need this, and then we just agree on a time frame. So however she decides to do that, she decides to do that. So those are two very vast differences. Now the issue comes is when people don't know if they have an employee or independent contractor is, per the IRS, if you are hiring someone on as an independent contractor and they're actually an employee, you can be penalized by the IRS up between $5,000 to $15,000. So sometimes people try to make employees independent contractors because they want to avoid a lot of the costs. So right off the bat with employee tax and Medicare and things like that, you're going to pay 8 to 10% of your gross profit for an employee. Never mind if you have a larger company and you have to do things like insurance and workers' compensation and all that stuff. So it's just really clear. I think overall, unless you're a therapist who has like a big center or a nonprofit, then that's a whole different ball of wax. But hiring independent contractors is kind of more in our profession. Of course, everything that I talk about depends on your specific area of what you're doing. But those are some general rules in regards to independent contractors versus employees. Another thing too, for an employee, you'd have to pay fair labor standards. You have to give FMLA if they're a full-time employee. Those are certain things you can't. With an independent contractor, if you ask them to be trained in certain things, you have to pay them for all of that time. You can't ask them just to come to meetings and not be paid. Like for example, one of our independent contractors, we are doing an e-course right now, and we're asking her to complete the e-course within 3 weeks. However you do that on your own time is fine, but we have to pay her for her time to do the e-course because it's related to some of the stuff that we're doing. So any questions so far? You guys can jump on in regards to just general, what's the difference between employee and independent contractor? No, good. Okay, I see you guys writing notes. That's awesome. The other thing too, obviously, is independent contractors pay their own taxes. So before you hire on an independent contractor, you want to assure you have an independent contractor agreement, which lays out everything. And I'll go over some of the stuff that we have in our agreement that you would want to make sure is in your agreement. And of course, you want a W-9, folks. That's really important. So you make that as part of the agreement. I think sometimes people will do the agreement and they forget about the W-9. You want to make sure that those go together. Really important because it just makes it easier at tax time and you're not chasing down people. Let's see. So yeah, so the paperwork that you guys need for independent contractors is you need an independent contractor agreement. You want to W-9 them. And remember, you're going to have to 1099 them at the beginning of the year if they make over $600, right? Anything less than $600, you don't have to 1099. Just a quick ninja tip, because I love ninja tips. Someone asked us to come and do a training, and we had agreed on $600, and I said, actually, you know what? Pay us $599. That way, we don't have to pay taxes on it. You guys don't have to 1099 us, and it's a great thing, right? Another recommendation too is if you are going to be having a virtual assistant or an assistant, you want to make sure that they sign a business associate agreement, which assures that your confidential information is protected and they know how to go about utilizing confidential information. Of course, you would do some training on HIPAA and things like that just to assure everything is done. But if your virtual assistant really doesn't work with your confidential information, client list or things like that, or they're not in the medical record, you may or may not. My rule of thumb is I always like the highest level of protection. I like that. I like to know what the laws and rules are so you can kind of find the loopholes and play in them in a legal, ethical way. So that's my rule of thumb for sure. I'm going to now jump in. Any questions on that in regards to like what paperwork you guys need? Yeah, sir. You're still muted. Okay.
I have a confidentiality agreement that all of my independent contractors sign. For that matter, I have my volunteers sign them as well.
Awesome.
And without seeing my paperwork, I know you can't really tell, but how does that differ from a BAA? Or what question should I ask my lawyer, perhaps?
So you're right. I don't know how it differs with a BAA because I haven't seen your paperwork. But a business associate agreement is assuring, like even if you work with, like for example, with my marketing company, I have a business associate agreement because one of the things that they do is that they don't record the calls because that's like totally unethical, but they do call tracking, right? So even though they might not know that this person is going to become a client or isn't, the potential that's there is that they know the number coming through and they have a log of that. So we have a BAA together. I've worked with other marketing people where they might be in my forms and stuff like that, pulling information. So I would definitely look at BAAs and what it looks like and compare that to your confidentiality statement. And also train people in HIPAA. I know there's some like online stuff for people to be trained, and that's always good to have, and you can throw that in their chart that they have definitely had training. Any other questions? That was good. No? Okay, great.
Read after.
Joanna, what about you? Did you have any questions? I know we lost you for a minute.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. Turn my computer off. I had to use my phone. I do apologize.
No worries.
Do you guys chance a example of your business agreement form that you would use for independent contractors?
So there's a lot of business associate agreements online that you can look at. One of the things that we do is Kate and I have worked with an attorney to do an independent contractor agreement. So we sell our private practice paperwork, but we also sell a business package, right? So you have your independent contractor, you get the BAA as a bonus because we haven't run that through the attorney yet, but you also get a timesheet that has formulas in it. And the W-9 just comes with it. So the package is there, but I'll tell you guys about that later. But you can also go online and look at different business associate agreements and pull a template. Again, I always just recommend, run it through an attorney and things like that. So I know that Rebecca's not on the line, but Rebecca had some questions, and hopefully some of her questions will hit upon what you guys have. So one of the things she was asking, another thing I'm going to send you guys is a link. I know that there should be a chat. I'll send them in the chat when we're close to finish. I'll send you guys all the links. One of the questions is, should an independent contractor, if you're especially if you're doing it as a therapist, right? So if you're bringing an independent contractor in, a therapist, should they have their own LLC? Again, I always go with the highest level of protection. I would recommend they have their own corporation LLC, and you require them to have liability insurance. Your company might have liability insurance that covers you and the company, but it's just added protection. And honestly, added protection for yourself and your company, I think, is really essential. Plus, you can encourage them. It's added protection for them. Also, too, for therapists, maybe they're just got out of school, or maybe they're newly licensed and they want to build up their practice. Being incorporated and having your company incorporated allows them to begin to grow kind of their corporation, and money's into their corporation. So that's an extra benefit for them. And again, it just depends. I like to go with the least amount of risk. So that would be my recommendation in regards to having the LLC. Now, someone had asked, certain states require, I'm not sure. Again, I'm in Florida, so I only can speak on what I know about Florida. So that would be a specific question to a business attorney or a CPA in your area. Another question that Rebecca had is, how much tax is it smart to take out from each check? So she's asking, as an independent contractor, and just if you guys are hiring independent contractors, you just might want to let people know, like, hey, remember, you're going to get 1099 and you're going to pay taxes. My recommendation, it depends on your tax bracket, right? 15% is a good minimum. Anywhere up to 20%. I know when I first started my company, I hadn't had taxes taken out, but I would always put 20% in savings. I like it that way because come tax time, it's almost like, I don't know, a shopping spree or something like that. Like you have a little extra money when your taxes get all done, and you're like, oh, I actually have money left over. So I would say a minimum of 50%, 15, you want to make sure that you save. Let's see. Anne had asked a question about what information should be included in the work agreement with independent contractor. Good question. So number one, tasks. You want to make sure that independent contractor agreement is you actually list tasks, but you have to kind of make it vague, not like a job description, right? Because you want to make sure it's clear that this is an independent contractor and not an employee. So it might be something like graphic design and marketing materials. The end, right? But obviously when you're talking to them and you're training them, you're like, okay, I need a flyer for an upcoming seminar I'm doing or something like that. If it was like a virtual assistant or a graphic design person. Nature of the relationship, you want to clearly lay out the nature of the relationship, the business associate agreement, the ownership of work and intellectual property, right? So Sarah, I know that you do some equine stuff and maybe you have a certain way that you do things or module. Well, that is all your intellectual property. So you want to assure that that's all clearly outlined in the independent contractor agreement, that this is your intellectual property. They can't disseminate it. They can't share it with the public. So it protects all the work that you've done. And some of you guys might have some list, you might list, maybe do workshops or something like that. I work a lot with couples, so maybe I have a list of 2,000 couples that have expressed interest in workshops. That's all intellectual property as well, and so you want to protect that no one can take that with them or sell it or do other crazy things like that. Handling client information, you want to make sure that how to do that, confidentiality information, and then the independent contractor functions, which is also related to the task. So those are some of the things that would be in your independent contractor agreement. Any questions? I know I'm talking fast, huh? No, good enough? Okay. So Nikki was actually the one who initially, we had touched base and talked about having this conversation, and she unfortunately is sick. So I said I would answer her questions regardless, so it's here on the replay for her. So one of the things that I get a lot of questions about overall is therapists as independent contractors in your practice, and asked about fee splitting. So let me just kind of talk about that in general. I had spoken with an attorney over at AAMFT, so I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Now, here's the issue. I know a lot of people do fee splitting, right? And it's a gray area. And the reason being is obviously we can't do kickbacks, rebates, or bonuses or referral fees or anything like that. The gray area comes is if a therapist is doing fee splitting and charging for rent or marketing. Fee splitting can only be used to go towards rent or marketing. So if you're doing a fee split with a therapist, that's it, no, nothing else, right? Or you're doing rent, right? So maybe you're charging, I don't know, a flat fee per hour, or maybe you have a full-time therapist in your office and you charge, I don't know, $700 for the month. So it has to just be really clear on what that arrangement is, because the issue with the fee splitting is that, so say I have, John in my office and I have Jeff. Well, John charges $200 an hour and Jeff charges $100. What's to say that a therapist is not going to send all the referrals that he or she can't take to the person who charges $200? Because if the split is 60-40, 70-30, I obviously get more, right? So it just you have to be really clear on what your practice is, and also really get clear on the paperwork and state what that is, and not charge rent and or marketing fees, but just do a fee split. If you charge rent, it's flat fee, or you have someone, you know, there for, okay, you're here. Like my rent in my office is, I'm there Mondays and Wednesdays. It's a flat fee for that time. I don't pay hourly. But if someone said, hey, look, Katie, I'm going to run some Google AdWords, or, you know, I'd like to put you on my website. Do you want to spend $100 in marketing to help generate some leads? That would be okay. Okay. So it just has to be really super clear. Let's see. The other thing too is, like, if you're requiring a therapist to kind of come under your company name, or use your business cards or your electronic medical record, I think you got to kind of talk with someone about that, right? Are they an independent contractor? Are they an employee? Are you giving them referrals? Are you telling them when to be there? I think you have to kind of get really clear on that. For me personally, and this is what I say, like, our field is similar to like accountants, lawyers, doctors, right? Like, we all have a high level of education, and most of us want to be paid well for the work that we do, right? So a lot of times I don't see many people, unless they're just like, I want clients, I want to kind of be in private practice, but I don't want to do any of the business side, right? And so they're willing to take maybe $50 an hour to see a client, right? So then that's okay. But a lot of times I think there's an illusion of therapists coming into private practice that it's easy, right? And it's not. So maybe sometimes therapists will try to go out, and then they might say, hey, you know, I saw you on a Facebook group, and, you know, you said you have an influx of clients and you want to be able to send them to someone. As long as that therapist is creating his or her own schedule, I don't know where the payment's coming from. Is it coming to the company and then you're paying the person? Remember, you want to 1099 and W-9 them, right? Or if you're doing a fee split, the other way around, the money comes in through the therapist and goes to you. They have to 1099 you for a fee split. If it's a rental agreement, there's no 1099. Okay, is that clear? Okay, I'm just looking for furrowed brows or something like that, like it's a little confusing or something. Morgan Lang had asked about fee splitting. I think we just kind of went over all of that information. And Aaron was asking about independent contractor versus employee. Ultimately, if you did have it, now remember, it's not a choice, right? You want to be clear on the IRS, what IRS identifies as an independent contractor versus employee. So if you have an employee, you have an employee. But obviously there's a benefit of not having to pay all the extra taxes, Medicare, and all that stuff for an independent contractor, that they're just going to take care of that on their own. And then the other question she had was provisionally licensed. This is state per state. Most often the law doesn't say someone can't start a corporation, right? Anyone can start a corporation. Here in the state of Florida, and I'll use that as an example, is that a registered intern, so that's a person under supervision here, provisionally licensed, they cannot have their own independent private practice. And what the board means by that is that, yes, they could incorporate, but they cannot see clients without a licensed person on site, right? So they can have their own entity, they can be paid, they can do all their own marketing, maybe they just rent from you, but the licensed person has to be on site. I'm not sure how it is in other states. It might be different. I'm not really sure. I would recommend that you guys check with your board and state rules in regards to a provisionally licensed person or person under supervision. Let's see. And then let's see, Sarah, I'm coming on to you. So your question about the cost analysis, about when to make an independent contractor and an employee. Again, I think that that's going to be depends, right? So you really have to, number one, get clear, is this an independent contractor or is this an employee, right? With the employee, you're going to pay those extra special things out of your pocket. And a good factor to factor in is about 8 to 10% of your gross profit coming in will be more expensive for an employee to have an employee. And then I guess you have to kind of determine, you know, what it is that you're looking to make, what a person would bring in for you. It's a big depends, right? I don't know how to answer it exactly clearly. I haven't seen any mathematical situations. That might be sitting down with your accountant and looking over the years of your growth, right? Like, are you projected to grow again 10% this year? Are you taking a loss? Are you bringing in new equipment? Or I don't know if you are making stuff up just based off, I know you do equine. Are you purchasing a horse, you know what I mean, to do more therapy? Really looking at that and understanding a little bit more about that. And then I know you were asking about going rates for South Florida for contracting mental health providers for group or individual clients. Again, I think that depends based off of, number one, how much you're charging. Number two, the length, if you're doing a group, right? Is it an hour group? Is it a 3-hour group? I would also probably just kind of maybe reach out to some folks in your area. You know, again, location always matters based off of marketing and kind of the going rate, like what's the median or mean going rate. I know obviously Florida has many different areas where things might be more expensive or less expensive depending on where you live. But I would probably reach out to some other folks who do similar stuff that you guys do. Cool. What questions do you guys have? And I'm going to post some of the resources here in the chat for you guys. I see we have a Tammy and a Heidi. Well, what questions do you guys have that I can answer? Has this been helpful? Is this what you guys are looking for? Yes, no, maybe so. You guys, if you're on mute and you want to talk, you can unmute to the bottom left. One of the things I'm putting in the chat, I don't remember who had asked about the taxes stuff. I just finished reading a book called Profit First. Awesome book. I don't know if you guys are aware of the money management system or the money envelopes. Dave Ramsey talks about it. A lot of other people talk about it. But Profit First book basically applies money management systems to your business. So whether you're starting out in business or you're already in business, this book has been great to kind of manage your own money, assure that you're profitable right off the bat, or become profitable if you're already in your business. So that was a book recommendation. It was really great. I actually think, I don't know if you guys know Ernesto Segismundo, I think, or maybe is it Laura Long? Someone I know is doing like a book club, book review on that. I believe it's Laura Long. So if you guys, she's in our group, in the Private Practice Startup Facebook group. So if you guys are interested in that or want to be connected, I would definitely do that. I'm also going to drop in the chat. So this link is for the IRS. So it's based off whatever state you are in. You can go here and look at the rules in regards to independent contractor versus employee. So there's actually two. I know it came up as one. Here, let me see if I can actually. There's two links. One is actually the IRS page, and then one is a PDF document that we have that goes state by state. So that's the PDF document. I should probably write that in there. State by state regarding independent contractor versus employee. So that's that one. And then this is irs.gov. What's the difference between an employee and contractor? So IRS. So IC versus employee. And then if you guys are interested, we do have our paperwork package where we've kind of taken care of everything for you guys. You can check that out. And if you have any questions, just let me know. It has all this stuff in there and a timesheet too. So more importantly though, I want to know what other questions are kind of lurking out there in regards to independent contractors. Did I answer most of them? Do you have a specific question? No, yes. Was this helpful? Yes, made your head spin a little bit. The other thing I recommend too, thankfully I have a great accountant and a friend who's also an accountant, is that some of you might be starting in business and you might be a single member LLC. As you grow in your business, and I'm not sure what the amount is, but you want to talk with your accountant, and always choose an accountant who has your best interest and is willing to take your questions and answer them. Because what happens is once you get over a certain income level, generating gross profit, is you want to switch your LLC into an S Corp for taxation purposes. I know for me, it's saved me about $5,000 per year since being an S Corp. So you want to make sure you're asking your accountant these questions. Okay, Sarah, you're going to review your paperwork. Awesome. And if you have more questions, feel free to either post in the Facebook group or email me directly. I am happy to answer those. I know Joanna and Heidi, you're on, but not on video. Just wanted to check in with the two of you to make sure that this was helpful, that I answered your questions. You can either post in the chat or just come on and say hi, or if not, that's okay too. And you guys can always email me, post in the Facebook group. I'm happy to answer whatever I can. Cool. Well, I hope this was helpful to you guys. I hear someone typing, so I'll just wait a minute. Or maybe that was typing something else. Okay, Heidi, so far so good at work, so cannot be visible. Awesome. I appreciate you sneaking off and coming on. Anyways, that's awesome. Should I talk quieter? Maybe I'm in your ears, so that's cool. So Heidi, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. If you want to, email me, call me, send smoke signals, anything like that. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks so much for being on the call. I do hope that this was useful. I really appreciated everyone who sent questions because it allowed me to kind of think, do some research, and really get you guys the answers that you need. So I hope you all have a good day. Sarah, I know I'm going to meet you in a few weeks, so I look forward to meeting you face to face. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.